Somewhere between reality and imagination lies the realm of the paranormal. A place filled with spirits, magic, and the unexplained. Come with us on our journey to discover if the stories are true or if they are all just smoke and mirrors.
Welcome to Smoke and Mirrors, the podcast that dives deep into cases of the paranormal, the unusual, and the unexplained to separate the facts from the fiction. I am your host, Darrell.
And I'm Cindy. And today we're going to be talking about curses. We'll discuss where they come from, why they work, and 2 cases that had devastating effects on the people involved.
So, we've never really talked about curses. What's your take on curses? Do you think they're real?
I think they probably could be real, and probably some of them are real. But I don't think that every time someone says, I'm putting a curse on you, or I'm putting a curse on this, does that make it true? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense, yeah.
I'm having a hard time figuring out what I'm trying to say. Like, if 100 times somebody says, you're cursed, I'm cursing you, maybe 2 of those are true. I think it depends on if it's a witch that's doing the cursing.
Okay, see, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that it depends on the person involved? And do you think that it comes from like a place of magic?
I think magic and also evil. And I think that, you know, if you are somebody who is involved in black magic or voodoo or you're a witch, then probably you can curse somebody. But a regular person probably can't. But I don't know for sure. But I curse you an awful lot and it's never come true yet. So,
well, I don't know about that. My luck's pretty crappy.
But you have me for a wife, so that makes you A-okay.
So I put a poll out on Twitter and I asked if people believed that curses were real. And surprisingly, 60% of the people who answered said they believed in curses. And even some of the people that I know who don't believe in ghosts or don't believe in cryptids or don't believe really in anything said that they believed in curses. And that was interesting to me because kind of their take on it was that they believed that if someone has enough negative energy and they're directing it at someone or directing it at an object, that possibly that person or place or object can retain that energy and then it will forever negatively affect the people around it.
Also, it probably depends on how much the person that is being cursed believes that it's real. Because if you try and curse someone and they don't believe in it, things that happen to them, they probably won't ever think that it's the curse. But somebody that truly believes in it, if they get cursed, anything bad that happens to them, they'll chalk up to that. So
yeah, and that's what's called the nocebo effect, which is actually the opposite of the placebo effect. With the nocebo effect, someone says, I curse you with this, this, and this. And just because they believe that they're cursed, anything that happens that's negative, they're going to automatically associate with the curse.
Right.
And then the more they believe it, the more powerful it becomes. And there are cases where people have literally made themselves sick and died because of the nocebo effect. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of power in belief. It's a strange thing. Growing up, you know, we were always told sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But in this case, and in the case of curses, that's really all there is words. And then the power behind the words comes from, I think, the individual who feels like they're being cursed. Although I may be full of crap, there may be forces out there that I don't understand, and those things lead to those curses. So I was looking back, trying to dig through the history and find out where curses came from and how old the oldest curse was. And basically from everything that I found, the idea is as long as there has been religion and the belief in magic, there's been the belief in curses. And the oldest written curse that's ever been found was found from the first dynasty of Egypt.
A lot of the stuff I saw when I was looking up curses seemed interchangeable with things being cursed and things being haunted. But I think those are two totally different things.
Yeah, I think they are too. I think a curse and a hex are similar, but I don't think a curse and a haunting, I think, are the same. So today we have two cases that we want to look at, and one of them is of a cursed family and the other is of a cursed object. Now, the first case we want to discuss is the curse on the Habsburg Dynasty. The Habsburg family, which reigned in Austria and Hungary from the 11th century until the early 20th century, fell under not one but two curses. The first being known as the Curse of the Ravens.
The family's rise to prominence began in the 11th century in Switzerland in Habsburg Castle. Near the castle, Count von Altenburg built Vulture Mountain as a gift to honor ravens, which was said to have saved the family from a group of vultures. About 100 years later, some Habsburg family members made some renovations to the tower that the ravens were not too fond of. The ravens then began attacking members of the Habsburg family, and so the family slaughtered the birds.
After this cruel act, it is said that the Habsburgs became cursed and haunted by supernatural ravens called tern falcons. These tern falcons would arrive just before the death of a family member, and were said to be present at the deaths of Marie Antoinette, Duchess d'Alencon, Archduchess Charlotte, her husband Maximilian, and even at the death of Archduke Ferdinand. The second curse came in 1848 when Emperor Franz Joseph, a member of the House of Habsburg, went back on his promise to spare the lives of prisoners who participated in a Hungarian rebellion. Countess Karolyi, whose son had been killed, proclaimed these words to the Count at a state ball in Vienna.
May heaven and hell blast your happiness. May your family be exterminated. May you be smitten in the persons of those you love best. May your children be brought to ruin and your life wrecked. And yet may you live on in lonely, unbroken, horrible grief to tremble when you recall the name Karolyi. It wasn't long before luck turned sour for the family. In 1853, there was an assassination attempt on the emperor, which left him blinded for some time. This is the beginning of the tragedies that would eventually leave the family utterly destroyed.
At the behest of his mother, Emperor Franz Joseph married the Princess Elizabeth, and they had 4 children. The oldest daughter, Princess Sophie, died of typhoid fever, and upon the birth of their youngest, the Archduke Rudolph, Elizabeth fell ill. Shortly thereafter, Franz's brother, Archduke Maximilian, was persuaded to go to Mexico to rule. He was urged to do this by his wife, the Empress Charlotte, and his mother, the Archduchess Sophie, the latter being more insistent in her demands, declaring that she wanted to be known as the mother of 2 emperors. But the curse of the Habsburgs fell once more. Maximilian was executed by the Mexicans, and his wife, Empress Charlotte, ended her days in a madhouse.
This was followed up by a litany of deaths and scandals over the years. Archduke Rudolph, the heir to the throne, was found dead with his mistress in a hunting lodge near Vienna. The death was eventually ruled a suicide, and because of this, his mother, Princess Elizabeth, went mad. She started traveling the world, grieving the loss of her son, only to be assassinated in Lake Lemasse, Switzerland, by an Italian anarchist with a sharpened shoe awl.
Man. Ugh.
The final nail in the coffin for the house of Franz Joseph began when his nephew, Archduke Ferdinand, married beneath him to a young Bohemian lady named Sophie Chotek. Because of this marriage, their children, who would be the last of this line of Habsburgs, could not inherit title or throne.
Finally, on June 28, 1914, the emperor's nephew, the Archduke Ferdinand, and his wife were assassinated in Bosnia, thus ending the lineage of Emperor Franz Joseph and the curse on the House of Habsburg. Wow, that's a pretty interesting story. There's a lot of things that went wrong in this family, and this has kind of been edited down so we didn't spend so much time because so much occurred within this royal family that it was really hard to sort through, to be honest, to get all the information. And whenever I was researching it, especially when I was researching the curse, it was tough because it seemed like the people who were writing about the curse maybe didn't really know the lineage themselves. And so it got kind of twisted whenever I went through and researched it. And so it took a long time to sort everything out. But what do you think of this curse? Do you think that this was all just coincidence, or do you think that this lady actually put a curse on the family?
I think that she put a curse on them. Everything that she said happened.
Yeah, it was pretty prophetic. But then again, you have to look at the time period in which this occurred and the people involved.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to say, that back then, during that time, stuff like this happened all the time. So it could be just a huge coincidence that everything she said came true.
The only odd thing about it was that Franz Joseph actually lived, and he was the only one really that lived to see all of this occur. And basically to see your last heir disappear or die before you do, it was a crushing blow to him.
I'm sure. And I'm sure he thought about this countess who cursed him every time something happened.
Now, one of the things we have to look at is kind of the time period, like we said, and some of the history behind it. At this time, there was kind of a shifting attitude in Europe where countries were starting to become where they felt more nationalized, and there were a lot of uprisings. You had the uprising in France, you had uprising in Hungary, you had just countless kind of uprisings. And so the fact that there was some assassinations, to me, really didn't seem too odd. You had a family who had controlled this vast area for a very long time. And in Hungary, they really didn't like Franz Joseph. Now, however, they loved his wife. After the youngest son, Rudolph, was born, in the curse, what we said is she fell ill. But that's really kind of not what happened. She was more mentally ill than actually physically ill. She took to thinking that she had to stay clean all the time. And so at this point, she actually left and would go and visit spas and, like hot water spas, because she thought that that was the only way to stay clean. And she would do weird things like bathe with her clothes on. She was kind of a eccentric lady, but the Hungarians loved her. And she spent most of the rest of her life away from Franz Joseph. And then when she was assassinated in Switzerland, the Italians were trying to have an uprising to make their own state, basically, and get out from under the rule. So again, that wasn't, I don't think that had anything to do with the curse. Now, Maximilian, here's kind of the strange story behind Maximilian. Maximilian, at one time, ruled over their control of Italy. And he went to Joseph and said, hey, these people would like to be more independent. I think it's a good idea. Franz Joseph did not like that idea one bit. And because of that, he removed him from his station over that area. Now, a little later, you move forward just a little bit in history, and you had the Mexicans who were starting to fight France over areas of land and control. And so when they sent Maximilian, I don't know that he sent him over there to die, but he knew it was a bad situation. And when Maximilian was captured, the Mexicans actually executed him for treason. So, again, it's a situation where you had a lot of chaos in the world, and that just happened to occur. Rudolph, on the other hand, he's a completely different story. But I think he suffered from mental health issues. His mother obviously suffered from them. And really, if you get back in their lineage, they had inbred so much that there was physical mutations. There's something that was actually called the Habsburg jaw, which was because of the inbreeding. And anytime you inbreed like that, it's going to cause mental issues as well. And so you had Rudolph, who had been married to a woman that he didn't really like. And
why are you laughing?
Well, that's just the case. He was basically forced to marry her, and he didn't like her. And so he had taken up with this 18-year-old mistress, and they had gone to this hunting lodge that he liked to go to, and he shot her and then shot himself.
He didn't really like her either then, did he?
Well, he did. I think he felt like there was no way out. And because of his mental state, he shot her and shot himself.
That's not so nice.
No, it's not so nice. All right. So let's get to this second case that we want to discuss. And the second case is the curse of the Basano Vase.
This vase was made from carved silver in the 15th century, and its history is a bit vague, but legend says that the vase was made for an Italian bride as a wedding gift in a northern village close to Napoli. On her wedding night, the new bride was found lying on the floor, dying and clutching the vase. Just before she died, she promised to return and seek her vengeance. After her passing, the vase was handed down in the family, and whoever received the vase died under mysterious circumstances. Eventually, the vase was boxed and hidden away in a secret location. Little is known as to who buried the vase. There is a story, though, that says it was buried in sacred ground by a priest, but other stories say it just simply disappeared. Either way, in 1988, it reappeared.
When it was found, a piece of paper was rolled up inside with a message saying, "Beware, this vase brings death." The warning was thrown away, and the vase was quickly sold off at auction for 4 million lira. The buyer was a local pharmacist who owned the vase for only 3 months before he died under mysterious circumstances. His family then sold it to a surgeon who did not believe in curses. He subsequently died 2 months later at the ripe old age of 37. After a short time, the vase was sold yet again to an archaeologist who purchased it for his own private collection. 3 months later, he died of an unknown infection. By this time, the vase had picked up somewhat of a reputation, and it took a while for the family to find a buyer.
This time, it took only 1 month before the curse of the Basano vase took the new owner's life. The family was so terrified of the vase, they threw it out the window of their car, only for it to hit a policeman on the head. Upon explaining their story, the officer wrote them a ticket for disorderly conduct and demanded they take the vase back. The owner of the haunted vase took the ticket, but refused to take the vase, saying they would rather be arrested. The police tried to give the vase to several museums, but they all refused to take it because of the curse. Reports state that the local police buried the vase in an undisclosed location. Some claim it was put in a lead coffin and buried on the grounds of a local cemetery where it cannot be found.
All right. Now, here's the thing about this case. If it's true, it's definitely strange. The problem becomes if it's true. What you've heard here is basically everything you're going to find on this vase if you try to research it. You can't find any of the names of the owners. I couldn't find any of the newspapers that talked about it. The only thing that I could find was a picture of the vase and the claim that it was refound in 1988. So, I mean, what do you think?
I don't know about this one. I think on one hand, it seems like it is just this great story that somebody made up to increase the value of the vase or make himself or herself seem a little more important than they were. But I don't know. I would probably never own this vase. If someone tried to give it to me, I probably would never take it just because I don't know.
It seems like an urban legend to me. But the weird thing is, like every time I looked it up, there was no articles written saying that this was an urban legend. Everything that I saw on it said that this was a real case. But it's just tough for me to believe that it's real when you can't find names associated with it.
Yeah.
Say you take something like the Dybbuk box. The Dybbuk box, which is supposedly haunted, actually has names attached to it of the people who owned it.
And pictures.
And pictures and stories. And, you can still talk to the people who actually owned it. And the last guy did put it away. He hid it away so no one else would be able to own it.
We should try and get that guy on the show.
Yeah. But with this case, it just seems too vague to be real.
Yeah, there's a lot of information about what happened to the people who got it, but not a lot of information about who the people were and things like that.
All right, so I know that you've got a case that you looked at too that you wanted to discuss.
So because you said, and also because it's true, that I don't really do very much of the research, I just kind of come down and talk. I looked up curses, but it seems like the same 10 or 11 came up over and over and over. The chair, and Robert the doll, and Annabelle, and the Hope Diamond, and the vase. And
which, oddly enough, the Hope Diamond is what they blamed the death of Marie Antoinette on, but also the Habsburg Curse is also used as one of the blames for Marie Antoinette.
I would have known that had I done a little more research. But I found this curse that was a cursed phone number in Bulgaria. Did you read about it?
No, I did not read about that.
So the phone number is...
Is it 8675309?
How did you know? The phone number is 0888-888-888.
Okay.
And it's a mobile phone number. And the first man that was assigned that phone number was named Vladimir Grashnov. And he died of cancer a few months after he got that number. Then the number was reassigned to Konstantin Dimitrov, who was carrying the phone when he was gunned down in 2003 by a lone assassin in the Netherlands during a trip. Okay?
There's nothing worse than an assassin in the Netherlands.
Then the phone number was passed to Konstantin Dishlev, maybe, who was a businessman and was also carrying the phone when he was gunned down outside an Indian restaurant in Bulgaria's capital, Sofia, while he was on a date. Okay?
You know our listeners that are in like the Netherlands and Norway, and they're all cringing every time we say some of these people's names.
Allow me to apologize on behalf of Darrell and I. We're not the best, but I am trying. So anyway, after that third man was killed, Bulgaria banned the number. They took it. They're not giving it to anybody else. Even though they won't talk about it, they won't give it to anybody else. So I'm doing a little more research on, could a phone number actually be cursed? And that's kind of crazy, and what a coincidence. And then I find out that the first owner, the Vladimir Grashnov, died of cancer in 2001 at age 48, and rumors are that his cancer had been caused by a business rival using radioactive poisoning. The second gentleman that got the phone number and was gunned down in the Netherlands happened to be a Bulgarian mafia boss.
And
his trip to the Netherlands was actually to inspect his $500 million drug smuggling empire. And the third guy, who Dishleave maybe is how you say his name, who was killed while he was on a date, had secretly been running a massive cocaine trafficking operation. So I think that instead of it being cursed, it just happened to be a phone number that was sent out to a lot of really bad guys.
Yeah.
And
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah. So I thought it was funny because as I kept reading, and I came across all that said, oh, this guy's a drug guy, this guy's a mafia guy. So
yeah,
that's probably what happened. But
yeah, maybe pure coincidence then.
Yeah. But see, you should be impressed with my research skills because I got all of that. I made screenshots and everything.
Good job. Now, whether the bad luck and devastation that plagued the people in these stories is merely coincidental, or as many believe the result of powerful curses, I cannot say. It's up to you to decide what you think is real and what is just smoke and mirrors. Thanks for joining us for this episode. If you like the show, help us grow by going to iTunes and leaving us a rating and a review. Or leave us a comment on Spreaker, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, our YouTube channel, or on our website at www.paraphiles.net, where you can find podcasts, videos, and Paralopedia, your source for everything paranormal. Or just search for Smoke and Mirrors Paranormal on your favorite podcast player. If it isn't there, let us know. We'll be happy to get it added for you.
Also, you can find us on Facebook at Smoke and Mirrors Paranormal. Feel free to give it a like and join the discussion group so you can let us know what you think of the show. And if you want to keep up with the show on Twitter, follow us at Parapodcaster or at RapTN. Finally, remember to send in your stories of paranormal encounters to smokeandmirrorspod@gmail.com. We would love to read those on the show.
Yeah, we've gotten a couple of stories. I've really been putting out the word to try to get people to send in stories of the paranormal. So come on, folks. I know you have some. Email those in to us. You can call in. We put out a number on Twitter that you can call in to and tell us your stories. Come on, send them in. We'd like to make a whole episode just on your stories. And also, I'd like to thank Jason, who we had on last time from the Rap Paranormal group. We've been working in conjunction with him and set up the Paranormal Files Network. And if you go to the website, paraphiles.net, you'll find all the videos and all of our shows, and it really is put together pretty well. And you can find just about everything, including their investigation of Hell's Bar Dam and a new video that I just put out on hypnagogic hallucinations.
Yeah, Jason did a really good job on that, so we really appreciate it, Jason.
Yep.
Okay, well, thanks again so much for listening and subscribing. We hope you have a great night.
Have a good night.